hear Harsh's Batman voice last night? It's so good.
I hope he has that voice.
He got it back.
Are you in Harsh with us?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so cute. Who's your best?
I don't have one. I don't like it. We had so many alumni in our home.
Because they all went to IIT.
Nice name.
Institute of Technology.
One from
Do you know?
Tim and Jan posted such a cute pic together
What's your,
yesterday.
I don't have it. I don't care.
Great person.
I don't know her.
Maggie's nice. I don't know her that much.
I don't know her. All I know is what Akash said.
What's good? What does Akash say?
I've already talked to her about this.
Okay, good. But like,
I've already broken like 3 of these things. Do you want me to show you my broken one?
I was gonna make.
I have it in
I was
my
gonna
bag.
make you with my problem.
This is called.
Because like
I
Akash
don't.
just
Mickey
gave
comes
up.
to me with her problem. Eddie, where's the wisdom?
Tommy.
I have great
805
words of wisdom.
You do. Wait, what is that?
What?
That's so good.
Wait, what does it say? When you really got a shit.
I wanna. Wait, am I stronger than Tommy?
This is my left.
Okay, you have the advantage because. What? Oh my goodness.
Does Smith use the chalkboard?
Thank God.
Yeah, honestly.
I want to get on YouTube.
I think it might be a little bit
Sitting there.
Can you work?
But you can't.
Anyway, have a great weekend.
Are they in the front?
Yeah, they're supposed to return those. They're for
Yeah.
donor people.
Yeah, but
Tommy!
I don't take them on my own.
Exactly.
Go to 07.
What?
Go to 07 right now.
Why? Oh, I'm not gonna get a tear cookie.
You got a violation?
I got caught. I didn't get violated. I got caught for.
Never got a violation.
It's about talking to the I mean that one. Your violation. You're just equal to-
2 times caught.
Yeah.
I'm just really
Actually, I haven't been caught.
I'm good at both.
I've done that.
I don't even want to break it.
No, don't break it. I just want to see who's stronger.
Here, can I actually?
But you had a head start. You made me start over there.
3, 2.
Yeah, it sort of takes the wind out of it.
Are you? I don't think you are.
So spiky.
If only we had.
No, you have to use one
You need
hand.
6 pack.
Use that six
doesn't
pack
help.
up. Use
That
that.
won't help.
Use your.
See, this is what happens every single time. 3rd fob broken this time. You thought I was joking, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
I was not.
I did not think that you. I've seen it happen at least once.
Do I have a backup?
Do you have a backup? You have a backup
Great
phone?
backup.
I have to go to pop.
Barry, what are you doing?
I'm sitting in.
He's being the great
Sitting in.
Yeah, exactly. This is me.
No, I have to go to BC.
It's, yeah, it's, there's no easy,
I can
answer.
probably just attach it.
You're learning parts of the room already?
In German?
You're in German.
Well,
Yeah.
wait, are you sure we actually do nothing on Wednesday?
No, we get homework. So we do something.
We'll just do the homework.
We just work on some more.
Why are we?
Just search guys, this is my video.
Well, Sean, you need. wall. Was it you? How to say it? Susha. I'll just say room.
Or the oral evaluation was Thursday, Friday. Yeah, she said something about Monday.
Very good. Not like
There's one of
How about
them.
you?
it's just a conjugating verb. I'll just like
Okay, how is the
verb every verb that we got.
That part is pretty
Back up.
It's not?
Do it like
This is my
Is that
background.
like really
right.
It allows me to sell something that's bigger than
Yeah, it's pretty fun. Just stay confident about the partner.
I'm gonna say if it's
You're on.
he's not ready to
This
first.
is all we're doing.
Yeah, you just abandon confirm.
Wow.
Everything else is.
inertia.
Oh my god.
Like, what's always things? Yeah, I know that. I guess I'm more enlightened because of it.
You know what the real is?
I saw what your roommate was doing, Mason. So fun. Walking to about how to do
Illuminati is just another name.
Illuminati. What?
The answer to
Trust me.
you.
Leon, how dare you take my
I think we might have a test today. Do we? What? Do we have an Amstud test today?
No. Oh, you know what chair?
There was a chair there. What happened to it? Do we have an Amstud test today? Okay.
Eden, I'm halfway through the next episode.
Congratulations, you're becoming a weirdo. Have fun.
Just for that show, though.
There'll be more. But the thing is, it's not. That's what's funny about it. The plot is horrible. None of the characters have personalities.
Shut up.
It's super predictable.
One there was like super good. Like as it goes back, it was like. Like when BB was like.
Clash has me dead. Oh god, it was wild. Were you a pep rally? No. I was spending $30 on sugar. Also, come over if you want ice cream. I love ice cream. It's also going to be melted, but it's in the fridge. I mean, I have track after school. Maybe later. Oh my god. Tired. I would rather be dead than be living right now. Oh my god, I'm so dead.
What movie? Okay.
Not you.
I was more
I don't know what to do with my life now. Clash is
I don't.
How about study and be productive? I get my homework done and I have good grades. Fuck you.
48, and I was like, nope, 49. And I was like,
Plus, I can manage it. I can both do my homework and enjoy Clash and touch it. I just miss having fun at Clash. I'm dead.
Should've just sat with
All right,
me.
Joshua, Sierra, Jacqueline,
Here.
Eden, October, Amy, Lisa, Thomas, Catherine, Eden,
Here.
Diane, Tommy,
Here.
Jessica.
Here.
Lucian. Sohel.
Here.
Alexander. Here. Derek. Colin. Here. Sybil.
Here.
Anne.
Here.
Amanda and Eunice.
Here.
So as I told you, you're in charge today. I need to make a preliminary comment though, which I made in the morning class, which is that in case you haven't discovered this already, I'm going to let you in on a little secret. The entirety of your academic career
Okay.
functions on parallel. Yes.
Yeah?
Please.
I agree.
Specifically mine or just in
We're all.
Well, in order for it to work, yeah, just yours.
Okay, understood.
What's that?
Yes, you.
Yeah, you do. What? Yo, you were freaking out about your like after you're like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do?
I didn't forget about this. Oh, I should have freaked out about this.
So you're all very driven by grades, and until you got here, you used to get straight A's.
This is
So
Then I came here. I was like, what are A's?
Me.
Don't know what they look like anymore.
So yeah, I mean, we know that you're driven and motivated, and that you want to do well, and that this kind of like tension is always there, and then we keep giving you assessments, and then you are constantly worried about doing well on them. And the fact of the matter is, you'll probably all be fine. But if I tell you that you're all going to get A's, then you won't study.
Very, very true. If you're going to say you're going to get an A,
But I won't study anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. We're all going to get A's. And so I'm not going to tell you that because you're not all necessarily going to.
I'm always paranoid.
These are the ones that are like upside down
It's
V's,
starting
right?
boring me already. Don't do that. You're all going to do fine if you take this seriously. Any of you interested in neuroscience?
Yeah.
So there's this interesting
Let's read
trend.
that. It says here that
There's this interesting trend in which people in education were like reading neuroscience and saying, "Oh, neuroscience tells us all these things about learning. So here are all of the things that we know about how people learn." And so the neuroscientists finally got annoyed at the fact that all of these people who know what they're talking about were citing their work. And they said, actually, all of you don't understand what we're finding. And so we're going to tell you what it is that you can actually get out of neuroscience in terms of understanding learning. And so they put together a book, which I read. And it turns out there is limited information that we actually know that comes out of this kind of research. But the one thing that I took away from that book, the one thing that we know for certain works is tests. It turns out that just the mere act of assessing students promotes learning, which is why paranoia is what makes this whole thing function. Right? I'm really sorry, but it turns out if you have any complaints about it, blame biology. I don't mean your SI bio, I mean biology. No, So that said, do you have questions? I have a few things I'll throw out.
I have questions.
It's actually, on a world scale, a pretty short document. The American Constitution, compared to other constitutions, the American Constitution is actually quite short.
I thought the Senate version was going to make it nice and easy for me, and I read the Senate version of every national constitution. I was still confused.
Why were you confused?
They use words like. They use some big words. They do. They were talking about system. I think I know what that.
You should be glad. They're treating you like grown-ups.
I did look at my
You're like, man, I was feeling grown up when I arrived on this campus. Now I'm not so sure.
I never felt.
Come on, 2 days. Today, Monday, and then test.
Wait, I
thought it was Wednesday. It is.
That's the same thing.
He's not going to help you on this one. Yes, is that a question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I tried to find like bankrupt, like on the study guide it talks about bankruptcy, and I tried to find it in the application, but like all it says is that like it says the Congress shall have the power to like establish a uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcy. Is that all it means?
So the word is there, and it says Congress has this power to create uniform laws. What does uniform mean? The same where? All across the nation, all the states, therefore there are not going to be variations.
What about the territories?
So that's important. And obviously it was sent to the territories, though that wasn't the case at the time they drafted the Constitution, because it worked in the territories. Why does that matter? What section is that in? Isn't that the section that everyone was saying, oh, this is awesome, this is our favorite part of the Constitution? Do you remember that?
My favorite part of the
Favorite part is the signatures.
So bankruptcy actually is going to be one of those things. Do you know what this is when you see it?
Carving out.
No, these are L's.
Limited
It's-
liability.
Yeah, okay, what's
Yeah.
the point of a limited liability company?
They're liable.
Well, it's like corporations and stuff, so if you sue the company.
Okay, so the whole point of limited liability, which is legally and contractually binding because of the bankruptcy clause of the Constitution, when you sue a corporate entity, the individuals cannot be held responsible for the company itself.
So you're not suing Steve Jobs, you're suing Apple.
Yes. And here's the other part of the reason it's important. If any of you are, we've had some very successful undergraduates in the past, right?
Yeah.
Who, like the
Maybe
people
like
who
two.
designed, I don't know, PayPal?
No, the bench.
Oh, the who, yes, it's better. So, if you were to, let's say you came up with some, let's say you patent something, and it's quite successful, and it's clear that you're going to be able to make some money with this patent. One of the things that you might want to do if this goes into some kind of production, you want to protect your personal assets from your business assets. So you create a limited liability company, which is the stuff that your business is. And it puts up a wall between the company and your personal assets. So if someone sues your company, they sue your company, and your company and its assets are liable, but your house and your personal assets are separate from it, even though you are the owner.
Why not just transfer your assets? It takes a while.
It only works in this with an actual binding document actually creating this separation between the two. And once you do that, there are certain laws you actually have to follow. So you can't just be moving things back and forth. But that's what that does. The bankruptcy clause, again, is part of that foundation for this work. What else?
Does the vice president have any role besides just president of the Senate?
Yeah, mostly not. The vice presidents tend to get very bored. They're always the ones that send out on there's lots of smiling and handshaking.
And ice cream.
And probably ice cream.
Probably?
Double scoop.
What if
And if Josh ever becomes vice president, it'll be lots of
intolerant?
ice cream and waffle cones.
Double scoop.
Double scoop.
But what if they're lactose intolerant?
You need to try Kimmer's up in St. Charles.
Who?
Kimmer's.
Right to
That's the name of the.
oh.
Now, are you on the Who again? No, this is the ice cream place.
Have you ever had Dairy Queen?
Josh, we've moved away from LLC. Yeah, he doesn't. The only power that's explicit is that he's also the hair. He's also like in the same way that there's a Speaker of the House. He's the President of the Senate, and so he serves in that role. And he will cast deciding votes if there is a need.
What does the Speaker of the House do?
So, the Speaker of the House is running the business of the House. He doesn't necessarily vote. He has the right to. His major task is to just keep the business of the chamber working, and the political norm is that he's also trying to get everyone to come together, like between the parties. The same way the Chief Justice, the political norm is that the Chief Justice is trying to get the justices to actually reach an agreement, and if they don't, he's supposed to oversee that process. Well, what does the Constitution tell us about bills becoming laws? You're going to do a quiz later in this class about more specifics about how it works now. But that process is based on rules that the Congress has set up. This test isn't about that. On this test you're taking, the question is, what does the Constitution say? What does it say? What?
It's a song.
Oh, yes, you're doing, yes.
I'm just a girl.
You want me to pull out?
No, not really. It's Schoolhouse Rock.
Every bill which shall not pass the House or the Senate shall before it becomes a law become the President and he has to sign it.
So both chambers need to pass the bill, so it has to go through both the House and the Senate. The President has to sign it. There are other steps along the way now, because a bill can originate either chamber, and then there's like a committee hearings and this kind of thing. I'm not asking you about that. I'm only asking about the fact that they need to be signed by the President. And then there are vetoes as well.
Can the President introduction of the bill?
Yeah, so for quite it's also been a tradition, and it's become more so, that the President has been more active in introducing things or has been part of the process. But the President, in the end, is only putting the stamp or the signature on the bill once it's actually arrived. So most of the heavy lifting has to be done in the Congress. The President can initiate, but it's interesting. I don't know if you're following. I won't go into great detail, but this discussion about healthcare in the Congress. Trump has not at all been involved in drafting this legislation, but he's insisted that it be called Trump Care. I was like, why would you want to put your name on something before you even know what you're going to be getting?
Name on everything.
Oh, I thought that was just a
Yeah,
joke.
right, it's true. I mean, yeah. The problem is, it hasn't even been passed. Are you sure you're going to want your name attached to it?
I mean, Obama did.
No, but he didn't.
You know,
His critics called it Obamacare.
he doesn't care.
It's the Affordable Care Act. And then later on, Obama started calling it Obamacare. It's just like, well, everyone's calling it that, so I'll call it that. We're not going to go.
Okay, so even when a president like vetoes a law or a bill, it could become a law because if the House or the Senate.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Yeah, how do is it because?
So the president has two kinds of vetoes. Yeah, did we talk about pocket veto?
Yes.
Okay, so
So do they just figure it and then?
okay, with the exception of the pocket veto, the Congress can overturn it, and then how do they do that? 2/3 of both chambers. So if there's an overwhelming amount of support in both chambers, if you have 2/3, they can overturn it.
Talking about toilet paper and not money and people can afford what is that? Just like what do you need to know about it?
again, what does the Constitution say? Do you want to go there? Okay. So what does the Constitution say? So what does the Constitution say about paper money? Yeah. Okay, so unlike the Articles of the Confederation, which was quite confusing about what it actually wanted to achieve, it's very clear in the Constitution Congress has the power to coin money. And they set up the U.S. Mint, and the U.S. Mint does what they're told. Congress has this control. I also ask you about, the students always ask me about the amendments. For this exam, we're interested in the Bill of Rights. The other, we won't talk about all of the amendments, but later amendments we will take up in due course as the class goes on. Our interest here is the Bill of Rights. Yes. Yes, but let's not do that again right now. I think there was something I skipped over in the class, which I can come back to right now, which is, how is it that we end up with the Bill of Rights? Okay, remember the whole Federalist, Anti-Federalist discussion? Okay. Madison insisted we don't need a Bill of Rights in the Federalist Papers. What is it? Where is this? This has showed up in previous historical documents. Where is it in the Constitution? Section 9. So it's in Article 2, Section 9. What does it say? Oh, I think you're reading the annotation. What does it say in there? Okay, so Madison's position is going to be, so in the course of the Federalist, Anti-Federalist paper exchanges, the Anti-Federalists, later in the numbers, I want to say somewhere in the 70s, might be the 60s. Anyway, they start calling for a Bill of Rights. Madison, who is the father of the Constitution, he gets very defensive. He says, Bill of Rights? We don't need a Bill of Rights. I put the kinds of things that you want, like habeas corpus, already in there. It implies that there's going to be due process. Therefore, if I start articulating specifics, then people are going to expect me to articulate all of the specifics, and then, then it's a problem. It's better that it remain implied as opposed to stated. But the Anti-Federalists get very antsy over this issue, and they say, no. The English Bill of Rights protected our rights. We want a Bill of Rights. Yeah.
Is this like martial law? Sort of like, does that give them the right martial law to suspend the
So in that same clause,
is it technically imprisoning a town if you don't put it in martial law?
yes. During the Civil War, Lincoln will actually use this. He'll say, look, we have an actual insurrection, and therefore I have the right to suspend habeas corpus. The Constitution tells me that I can. When we watch the Lincoln movie, there's actually a section in there where he talks about what he'd done. But arguably, the Constitution is very clear. It says that it can be suspended in that moment. Yes.
Does martial law need to be like confirmed by anyone else besides the president, or can it be overturned by? Like,
Well, this is a big
court?
question, isn't it? Because it doesn't actually tell us. This is one of those places the Constitution is completely silent on the point. If we follow the understanding of everything else in the Constitution, there is a separation of power, and it should be that the Congress can weigh in on it, the courts can weigh in on it, and therefore, the executive doesn't necessarily have all this power. But the Constitution does say that right is reserved.
Why do we have the Bill of Rights, and why couldn't they just put it in the Constitution?
So at the time the Federalist, Anti-Federalist discussion was taking place, remember some states have already started to ratify the Constitution. So Madison gets defensive, says we don't need a Bill of Rights. The Anti-Federalists are stubborn on the point. They say, no, we need to have a Bill of Rights. By the end, and I don't think this shows up in the Federalist Papers, but in the larger discussion, the people supporting the Constitution say, all right, tell you what, if this is what it's going to take to get this thing passed and to take the fears out of the people who are opposed to this, the very first order of business of the Congress when it meets after this Constitution is ratified will be to draft a Bill of Rights. And to their word, that's what they do. But it means that ratification happens without the Bill of Rights actually attached, right? And then it takes 2 years to actually ratify it. So the first 2 years of the country, the business of the very first Congress, they do get the Bill of Rights drafted, but the country's functioning without that. And Madison also takes it upon himself. He's going to be the person to actually draft the things, since he did the rest of it. We come up when the votes are taken, we come up with 10 that are in there. You'll notice, though, that what's in the 9th Amendment? Okay, all other rights. So what does that mean? What could it possibly mean? All other rights. What? Yeah. No, that's a different part of the Constitution. But this is where Madison is saying, look, I already told you that things are implied. If I start articulating rights, then you're going to assume that these are the only rights you have. So he writes the 9th one and says, look, there are a bunch of other things I'm not putting here that are implied. And all those other rights or liberties are retained by the people. And just because I didn't put them here doesn't mean that they don't exist. I'm going to give you an example. You have a question?
Why did he choose
He was responding to what people were discussing, what they thought should be in the Bill of Rights. It's not like he comes up with the ideas. I mean, it's a committee coming up with what the Bill of Rights should be. They start with 12. 2 of them get thrown out, and we end up with 10. And so Madison then drafts them into the final form. They go out for ratification by the states, and that's the story. They do end up having another amendment very quickly, but the Bill of Rights was part of this initial discussion.
So there are rights, liberties, and powers that can be, they're not assumed.
Well, not in the Bill of Rights. It's just rights and liberties. The powers are separate.
But like
When you're talking about, because when we're talking about powers, we're talking about what the branches of government can do. Those show up in different places. So there is a case, Griswold from 1965. It actually involved birth control. I mean, that was the topic. But what happens in the course of that debate the Supreme Court decides that the couple in question, the Griswolds, the husband and wife, that their right to privacy existed in the 3rd, 4th, and 9th Amendment. What's in the 3rd? Quartering the soldiers, how do we get privacy out of that? So the government can't come into your home. That is, the soldiers are representative of this. What's the 4th? Search and seizure. You can't have an unlawful search and seizure, therefore this also seems to be a restriction on the government actually just coming in and taking things. And what's this one? And the Supreme Court here decide that the 9th Amendment implies a right to privacy. Now, what's interesting about the 9th Amendment is that what's interesting about the Griswold case is a lot of people were critical of it because the Supreme Court cites the 9th Amendment and creates a right that hadn't been articulated. It was about birth control in this couple. And it was like a plan, it was Griswold versus Planned Parenthood. But the important thing is that this is the first time the Supreme Court said that the 9th Amendment meant something. Madison, I mean, we like to say Madison, but we could just say, look, it's in the Bill of Rights for a reason, which is that there are all of these other rights. Who else is going to determine what those rights are? So in this case, the Supreme Court says, no, it resides there. Don't go looking for privacy elsewhere in the Constitution, because the 9th Amendment is there for a reason, which is to permit the existence of other rights that haven't been specifically articulated. It's supposed to imply. I mean, there are, I guess it's a particular mindset, but there are people who are very rigid. That, well, I don't see it in the Constitution, therefore you can't do it. I was like, there's all kinds of stuff that's implied. How is this supposed to work? What's the 10th?
Like powers to the states, just like.
Okay, it's the same thing, but applies to the states. It says the states have all of these rights that haven't been necessarily articulated, but it also we also learn that the federal Constitution is above all of the other things that the states might be doing.
So then why do they include the 10th Amendment in the Constitution if like the federal government is like federal government is above everyone else?
Okay, because there are things states can do that are their own thing. I'll give you some examples.
Does it say anywhere in the Constitution that states have the right to
No. And Lincoln will claim later. Lincoln will claim later that the Republic and the Union itself are not to be broken. The problem is, if you allow states to secede whenever they just don't like something, the Union will collapse. Because anytime someone doesn't like it, they're simply going to say, fine, we're out of here, we don't want any part of this. And then the system doesn't work. Texas can say whatever they want. I don't care. Personally, I would like them to secede. They would save us a whole lot of trouble. What? Because of the number of presidents that have come out of Texas in the course of the 20th century. No. Johnsons are 2 terms, the 2 George Bushes. Yes? That's, let's see, 16, 20, that's 20 years since World War II, dominated by Texans. You guys don't know much about what's going on. Okay, if it's fine, let me not digress right now. We'll talk about Texas later day to remind you. But so here's an example. So this, we know that the states do not have the right to have their own immigration policy. Okay, Arizona tried to have its own immigration policy some years ago. That went to the courts, and the Supreme Court said, no, there is a federal immigration policy that determines how things are done with respect to people coming in and out of the country. You don't get to have your own. Here's another example. As I'm sure all of you know that there are a number of states that have taken the initiative to go against federal drug policy by legalizing things that are illegal, at the federal level. Colorado. And the Obama administration's position was, we're not interested in actually challenging that to do what you want.
Yeah, how can they do that though?
The Trump administration, if it wanted, could have said, we're going to reverse that. But their position so far has also been, we have other things that we're more interested in, we're not going to go there. Now, again, that can shift, but that's where it is right now. And so it's simply, what they're creating is a political norming that allows Colorado to have its own separate drug policy that is separate from the federal policy. Again, Colorado might actually say, if it ever came to a legal challenge, they would cite the 10th Amendment and say, look, we've had this, we've been doing it for a while, and now suddenly you're challenging us on this, and it's not going to work. There would be problems. I mean, if the federal government actually were to intervene, once you actually have kind of an economy that's functioning, it would be very disruptive. So I imagine there would definitely be challenges. But that would be another example. There are things like, for instance, Illinois has its own, in the Illinois Constitution, we have our own clause protecting free speech. Yeah, why would we protect free speech if the federal Constitution has it?
Is it just in case they get rid of it?
So it's because there may be issues of free, because originally the First Amendment was understood in terms of the relationship between the people and the federal government, not necessarily between the people and the states. Over time, it has grown and it's become applied in a larger context. But there may be reasons why states want to have certain sets of regulations about what is okay in terms of how they define disturbing the peace, for example. Now, could that be challenging in federal court? Maybe. But here's something that has happened. So, tell me about the XL pipeline. So what happened? So in these 6 states, as a reaction to the XL pipeline protests, and it seems, because of the Black Lives Matter protests, 6 states have passed laws that actually say you can't block a highway, you can't protest on highways at all under any circumstance. And if you do, say several of these states now, if a driver hits you on the highway, you can't sue. Now, is it possible that that kind of thing will be challenged in court when someone gets killed because, I don't know, someone decides to do what happened in France where they get in a truck and just mow over a bunch of protesters like, oh, they're on a highway. See, you can't accuse me of anything. I don't think it will last, but the fact that that's the direction they're going, right? This is where, at the local level, the terms of free speech can have certain parameters. Illinois actually limits protest because the police, they tend to charge people with many things that they can't in order to terrorize them, and then sometimes drop the charges, some of the charges later on. In Illinois, you can now be, if you're resisting arrest, if you're charged with that, that's now a felony. And so protesters who might, if you're in a political demonstration, if you actually do something that could be characterized as resisting arrest, you can be charged with a felony. So while I was taking my PhD exams, my comprehensive exams, it's like a whole week of tests, the week I was doing them, and it was, as it happened, it was the particular day that I was answering a question about like the anti-Vietnam War protests and what kind of organized resistance. It just happened. On that very same day, there was a protest in downtown Chicago against the war in Iraq. And it got so big, much bigger than people anticipated, that you were like, what, a year old? It got so big that it spilled onto Lakeshore Drive, shut down all the traffic. The police decided to take control of the crowd by forcing them into a couple of streets in the loop, and then they arrested like 1,000 people as a way of sending a message that you all need to disperse now. One of the people arrested was actually a friend of mine, which is why I know this happened. So they are all charged with as many counts that they can put on. And so it got pretty serious, and so the people who were arrested sued the city. And they said, no, we have the right to this kind of assembly. And it was peaceful, and it only became a problem when the police decided, that they would put us into a corral and then kind of arrest them. And they won their case. Well, that officially can't be disclosed, but as I understood it, it was several $1,000 for each of the 1,000 people or whatever.
Not like
No. They all got like a couple thousand apiece. So we're looking at the cities on the hook for a couple $100,000 that could have been avoided if they had just brought the police. So these kinds of things, you can end up with these kind of different rules at the local level about what the parameters are. In the courts, you can change these things, but sometimes it takes time. Yeah.
But like, why would higher ups like hate like on the support or like go against them? Like, just because he decided that there's an agreement.
So the thing about the XL pipeline is that we're looking at how many jobs is it actually creating permanently? Something like 3 dozen.
Right, but the alternative is just doing all that training and employees that who's chairman you get $2 billion because of that.
That's an interesting way of looking at it. Yeah, but I could easily say that the Keystone XL pipeline was being paid for by the oil companies, which pretty much own the Republican Party, and therefore this is all about their gain for creating 36 jobs. And so, you know, in other words, I'm saying that the money thing doesn't necessarily hold water. You could arguably say that the larger policy was about, look, we need to not be so reliant on oil. We need to move towards renewable resources because climate change is real. Well, if you happen to take a lot of money from the oil companies, then if you want to, you simply are like, no, climate change isn't real, and you kind of pretend that it doesn't exist. Or you get a bunch of climate scientists who are easily bought, people who have PhDs but are perfectly willing to accept their money in order to say, oh, no, it's not real. See, we don't actually all agree. Anyway. Let's talk about the Constitution.
Do we have to know like for how the bill becomes a law and specific like article?
I will never ask you for specific articles or amendments. That's the kind of thing that is easily looked up. No, I mean, I'm not going to ask you like Article 1, Section 2. I'm never going to ask you. Amendments, yes, the 10 amendments, you should know what's in them. But in terms of articles and sections, that's the kind of thing I'm not going to ask. That's one of the big differences between this test and the one that you took when you were in 8th grade. That and ultimately there's an essay question, and so I'm asking you to think, which is also something that's not necessarily expected of you on the other test. It's a 70-minute test. You can use your time however you want. The way we have graded this in the past is half of the score goes to the essay and half of the score goes to the rest. I think I usually put the 2 grades in separately as well, so I'll give you a grade for the objective section and then a grade for the essay. You'll have 2 grades for each.
Is the essay, can you type it on your computer or is it?
No, it's handwritten.
Is there an essay multiple choice?
Because that's how we do it. And you will do this in college as well. Follow my study guide, you'll be fine.
Is the other part other than that, is that mostly or is that fill in the thing?
No, there's some short answer. Again, if I tell you too much, then the paranoia is lost. The whole thing, the whole exercise is
You skip past it.
You don't want to do that. Yeah, as I said, just the first 10 minutes. We will talk about 13, 14, 15 as we get there. We will talk about the 17th, 18th, 21st when we get there, and the 16th.
Which constitution?
The French Constitution. I assume you're in Russian, right? Oh, you're in German? Yes. Okay. We're doing the French Constitution. Well, what terms of office are actually specified? And what are the terms? Yeah, well, so you know what I'm talking about. Okay, that has more to do with, so what did we cover with respect to what happens during the Articles of Confederation period and the Revolution, and how does that shape what happens in the Constitution? So, what have we been talking about in class in the 1780s that reflects the shaping of the Constitution? So that's the historical context. That wasn't the who.
That's your.
Come on, it's your thing, students.
Wait, what'd you say?
Wait, 10 minutes left. Yes.
Do we have to have terms for
I can't think of anyone else who's mentioned in there. Sarah?
what is it like eminent domain?
Eminent domain. Okay. So, what is eminent domain? Yep.
But that the government can take property if they pass some sort of law saying that the land is going to be used for like the greater good.
Okay, so it actually permits the government to seize private property for the public good, but they need to reimburse the people for the property. They can't just take it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Whenever this has been used, when I've actually seen it, like usually it's like we need to build a highway, okay, or we need to extend an airport, and unfortunately that means a bunch of people are going to lose their houses. When this has happened recently, people have always gotten not only fair market value but usually a little bit above, as a way of as part of the cost of doing it. This remains controversial. I don't know why. It's in the Constitution, so if you don't like it, you'll have to change the Constitution, which you can do. But there was an interesting thing happened. There was a case, it was before John Paul Stevens retired from the Supreme Court, because he was there, and he sided with the majority in an eminent domain case. And the next day, a bunch of protesters showed up on the front of his lawn and declared that they were seizing his house. I thought it was very funny, kind of cute. But the fact of the matter is, that's how it works. It's in the Constitution. That he had come out on an eminent domain. Anything? Of course not.
We didn't change the, if we're gonna amend the Constitution, then, I don't know, why does the process take so long? It's like, there's no point in changing it all.
But it has been, it's been amended 27 times. But why is it so difficult? Because you don't want people just on a whim changing things all the time. You want it to be difficult, which means you want there to really be an agreement that this is something you really ought to do. Now you can bypass the Congress, of course. You're like, well, if Congress is the problem, or if your amendment deals with the Congress, you go to the states. But you need 2/3 of them in order to get the thing drafted, and then you need 3/4 of them to actually ratify it. Or you can do it through the Congress with 2/3 of both chambers, but you still need 3/4 of the states. So it's supposed to be hard, and it's supposed to be hard in order to make sure that this is something you really want to do. Because otherwise, I guess the thinking is, otherwise that's only going to, whenever, and remember the Constitution may be for their parties, but imagine that the two parties, if they could just amend it whenever they wanted, every time one of the parties had the majority, they would simply change the Constitution if they felt like it. So the thinking was, we need to make it hard. I know it's frustrating when you're like, electoral college. Oh man, why is this so hard? But it's part of getting everyone on board. All kinds of, your generation can oversee all kinds of things because there are a bunch of you, and most of the barriers are going to be dead by the time you're old enough to do something. Huh?
Most of the barriers are confusion.
Yes.
Wow.
Okay. So I'm quoting several eminent people, physicists, economists in the past who have said, change comes one obituary at a time. Huh? Yes. You want long-term political change? Read the obituary.
They're saying Republicans are all.
I wasn't partisan about it. I simply said that your generation has a very different set of values than your elders, and there are a whole bunch of you. And by the time you're my age, all of the people older than who are the baby boomers will all be gone by then. And so there are all kinds of things that you can